More of the country is closing down tonight, trying to contain the coronavirus pandemic.
At some point, we're going to open up our country, and it's going to be fairly soon.
Weeks or months?
I'm not looking at months. I can tell you right now.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the my God.
This is going away. We're going to win the battle, but we also.
Man, 2020 sucks. Hey, I'm Ralph Jean Pierre, also known as Precious Gorgeous, an actor, comedian, and musician from Brooklyn.
Another episode.
And there's three things I love: Brooklyn, artists, and Brooklyn artists. All my life I've lived in Brooklyn, and all my life I've been an artist. I've always been really proud of both those things. Brooklyn has changed so much in my lifetime, especially in the last 15 years, and never more than in the last 6 months of the pandemic. I've got to get out and talk to other Brooklyn artists. I need to ask them, what do they make of all this change? How are they coping with it? What does it mean to be a Brooklyn artist now? For my first stop, I came to Williamsburg, to the industrial section, to visit Farah in her shop with all her metals and tools. Farah is a metalsmith, artisan, and sculptor. She's rad.
Whoa. All right.
Welcome.
To the shop.
We're set up to do production, but at the same time, like the reason why we're set up to do production was because I was always really obsessed about having my own tools and being able to, just do whatever I wanted to. And the only way to really do that was just start working for myself rather than working for a company or for the union or. My dad, he recently passed away as a mechanic. And when I was little, I just always wanted to be a mechanic and I wanted to work at the shop. He's a businessman,
Wow.
So he was like, you can work in the office. And I was like, no. So I ended up going to school. I went to school in Pratt and I got this job in Greenpoint. I immediately went to work at a chair factory in production, welding. So when I went into the welding shop there, it smelled exactly like my dad's garage.
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
Okay.
so then I was just like, oh, I'm home,
Wow.
So, and then that was it. I was in love. And that's all I've ever wanted to, that's all I've ever wanted to do. Welding, it's a very beautiful, quiet, private thing. When I put on my helmet, everything else goes away. I feel like I'm underwater, like all that exists is just what's exactly in front of you. Like it's like, you're like a horse with a binder on, and all you have is this view. When I was little, I had an aquarium, and so I was also like I'm really into like underwater documentaries. So it's like I was always just obsessed with underwater life. I like to make things that are somewhat insignificant to us. Like kind of like little species that seemingly unimportant. Pigeons and shrimp and, bottom feeders, mosquitoes, incredibly like resilient animals.
Right. They're not getting all the shark love.
Yeah. They're
yeah.
not high on the chain. And then, the thing is about making giant stuff and being a New Yorker is that like, it's too decadent, it's too, I don't want to carry around a giant piece for the rest of my life. Like the responsibility of that is huge. So I started pieces got smaller and smaller and smaller. The pigeons actually are surveillance pigeons.
What?
And they have cameras in them. Yeah,
That's cool.
These are old school,
Oh, that's so awesome.
security camera. Remember like when they used to have, I
Yeah.
think they still use them like in the grocery stores and stuff, these old security cameras.
Wow.
Yeah, so the camera is actually inside the bird.
What's like one piece of like wisdom or advice or anything that you got from like a mentor or a teacher or somebody that was like that is like central to what you still do today?
One thing I feel like Pratt taught me was like, you don't need anything to make your art. Like, don't, you know, nothing is precious and you don't need anything. If you have a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, whatever, you can always make your art.
You have things you do for money and you have your art. But it feels to me like it may also be that you are taking a lot of pride in just the production that you're able to do for other people. Like, I got this order, I'm excited, I'm gonna get it done right.
Oh yeah, I love fabrication work. Like, I eat metal work, you know what I mean? Like, I want it all. Like, we do a lot of doors. Last year, I think we made over 52 doors. This year so far, not that many, 4.
Okay, yeah.
No, I always try to like explain that like metal is an organic material. You know, like people think of wood as being organic, but metal is actually an organic material. You know, it's just carbon and iron, you know, and like, so there's something that happens that's not in my control either. You know, I mean, I try to control it, but you try to exploit it. Over time, you learn how to exploit your material. When I first moved into Williamsburg, it was like an industrial ghost town. Every like factory housed so many artists. When I came here, I was already like 27. Everybody was already here making art. And, you know, so I was going to school at Pratt and then I was coming back home to Williamsburg and like, you know, my friends were all artists, you know, so it was like, we were constantly critiquing each other and, you know, smoking pot and talking shit and, you know, like, but it was like, it was a community, you know, and like, even like, you know, the gallery I showed in was like a block away from my house. It was just your neighborhood, you know? Wow. The parties were wild and like, and the art was everywhere. But then with the real estate and everything changing, then it became what it is now.
Yeah.
You know, it took a lot of the, I mean, I still think that I love Williamsburg, I love the people here, you know, but it's not the same. I'm lucky to be here, you know?
Okay.
I'm really lucky to be here.
Yeah, I remember, I mean, I have like a similar experience. I came back to New York around 2007, so probably right after you got this shop. And like, I remember that. I remember being this like hot hub of like art. I remember there used to be like open houses right on Bedford.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then sort of quickly it became white hot and then it sort of imploded.
Yep.
Dwayne Reed and I remember
Right.
Starbucks, like, you hear Starbucks is coming to Bedford and you're like, what?
I don't get angry about it. I mean, it's lame. I mean, I think they ruined a really good neighborhood. And, you know, and that's because of zoning. But we have to stay here. Artists have to stay in New York. There's work here. You know, New York needs artisans. I wouldn't say I'm angry about it, but I'm like disappointed. You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, it's lame. The people were different. They weren't the same.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't like your neighbors and they weren't nice, you know?
Yeah.
They kind of came in with a very entitled type of thing.
You were saying that you don't think you could do this anywhere else. Why do you think you've ended up staying here in New York and in Brooklyn, like doing this work?
Just the love of New York. I mean, I think New York gave me the opportunity to be an artist. And I feel really grateful for that. The art galleries I've shown with and like even just my landlords, like I just felt like I had support here, I had help, and I had people that believed in me being an artist, you know, like, and even having this space here, I've been here for 14 years. Yeah, so it's like, you know, I feel like New York grew me or helped me, you know, like getting a scholarship to come here and then, you know, like it just seemed like it's been hard and you got to hustle, you know, it's, you know, and.
What does that look like sometimes? Like, especially in the early times, like that hustle.
Makes you hungry. that fear, like in between jobs, comes back. Like, oh, what's next? What's next? You know?
One of the magic parts of being in New York is you get good at that dance of like, first you're fretting, am I gonna have enough for the Metro card and the rent but then sort of even that cycle of like fret, okay, something works out, get back to work. Okay, now I gotta fret again. And
I've learned that like in that time, that's when I had the opportunity to make my artwork.
wow.
I would just be so concerned with the financial aspect of being here, you know, and not able to free my mind in the times when I wasn't working to make my art, to take advantage of that time. You make it over and over in your head again, and then when you have time to make it, you just do it. It just, you know.
It just comes, it
Yeah.
just falls out of you.
Because you've been denying yourself that for so
Yeah.
long, you know, that I built it so many times in my head that I've already made the mistakes.
What do you think is holding you here?
If you're doing what you're supposed to do in New York, you get to stay.
Ooh.
If you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing in New York, you don't get to stay. If you're doing what you're supposed to do in New York, you get to stay.
Faraz's words kept ringing in my head. What a haunting idea. That New York itself is wisest about who gets to stay. Even more haunting, that decision is made purely on the basis that the city wants you doing what you're meant to do.